Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to session 24 of Talking Aspergers with Andrew. And it's good to see some new faces here today, as well as Damien, who joins me quite regularly. So it's good to see you all. And today we're going to talk about something that is that happens to me from time to time, particularly as a child, and that's shutdowns. We talked about meltdowns a little earlier in an earlier session, but I want to talk about shutdowns today and to describe what they are, how they can happen, and what you can do to help someone who might be having a shutdown or showing symptoms of a shutdown at work. Um, well, a shutdown, as it kind of suggests, is where you shut down and you stop doing what you're doing. And it's a response to overwhelm. Overwhelm can, in people with Asperger's syndrome and autism, can lead to either a meltdown or a shutdown. And the shutdown is where you basically stop functioning, doing what you're doing. When I had them as a child, my breathing would get very slow, and people would look at me and think, "Has he fainted?" I hadn't, but I had absolutely shut down. I'd stopped paying attention to what I was doing. My head dropped. I just breathing went very shallow, and it caused some people some concern. They thought, "What is going on with him? Is he okay?" But it's a response to an overwhelming situation. And in the instances I had at school, it was actually the effects of a previous lesson that I was trying to deal with and trying to cope with and just got overwhelmed by, but somehow had managed to get through the lesson without having a meltdown or having a shutdown. Went to my next lesson, and for some reason, I felt reasonably safe in that with that teacher rather than the previous one where I didn't get on with my teacher. And so it was as though it was a delayed reaction to the overwhelming stresses of being in that earlier class. And I just shut down. And the teacher would say, is he all right, to the person sitting next to me? "I think he's fainted, sir." Well, I hadn't fainted. And they said, "What are we going to do with him?" "Well, I think we should take him to the nurse." So they did. Someone would take me to the nurse. They would take me by the arm and go sauntering off to the nurse. And I'd sit there and I'd calm down, and I would sit and I would just try and regain my faculties, try and get my breathing back together. The nurse would ask me what's wrong, and I just said, "I don't know." I'm very non-committal, not really in control of my vocabulary of what I was saying. And so the nurse would just let me sit in a chair in the corner of the sick bay, or whatever they used to call it back in those days. I can't remember now. And I would just sit there and rest, and she'd get me a drink of water, or occasionally she'd make me a cup of tea. And I would eventually come round and start to actually be aware of my surroundings, be aware that something had happened to me, and start to bring myself out of it. So um, it's a response to overwhelming situations. And just having a look at what do we say? So yeah, sometimes you have the inability to move. You might take yourself away from the situation and find somewhere quietly to sit and just let it all relax. Sometimes people who are having shutdowns can recognize the signs and think, "I've got to get out of here. I need to get away." Go and find somewhere in the office or in the building that is quiet. I quite often used to gravitate towards the stationery store for some reason, because it was quiet there. There wasn't anyone there on hand. We didn't have to sign out stationery. So if there was no one in there, I could sit in the stationery room and just sit quietly, try and regather myself, gather my faculties, and then go back to work. And I would usually go and make myself a cup of tea just to give me some impetus as to something to focus on. So if you're working with people who are showing signs of inactivity, they've stopped what they're doing, they might have a very blank look on their face, they might be very pale, because if your breathing's got very shallow, they might go very white, very pale. Then it might be a good thing just to say, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help?" And they might say, "It's the noise, it's the light. I've got to," and in which case, if you're able to take the environment away from the person by turning down the lights or asking the noisy people to be quiet, then that's a great help. If not, say, can I go and take you somewhere quietly? Is there a quiet office that no one's using where we can just go and sit down, the two of us? And so if you can't take the environment out of the way of the person, then try and take the person out of the environment that's causing the shutdown. And if you're able and you think they're okay to leave in that office, you can go make them a cup of tea or coffee and just sit there with them. And it's okay not to say anything, because they might be really struggling with actually being able to say anything. So don't feel pressured to say anything. If you're just sitting with someone who's really looking quite vacant and not with it and not there, just sitting with someone in those situations, so that if and when they say something that might be quite bizarre, they might say something quite strange and unusual for what they don't worry about that. Don't worry that they might come up with something quite strange. They might be really worried about going home. They might have had an argument with their partner or people that they live with, and they're getting really stressed out about it's getting time towards to go home. I've got to go and face that tonight. And they might just be not able to cope with that situation. So it might be nothing to do with what is going on in the work, or it might be the environment. As I said, there might be something noisy going on, or the boss has just made a sudden change and it's got to be done by 5 o'clock tonight, and it's 4:45 now, and the person is getting agitated and stressed and they can't cope with it, and they would either have a meltdown, or they would just sink into themselves and have a shutdown. So be aware of people who might be on the spectrum that you work with, who suddenly go listless, very quiet, quite pale, not paying attention, not really aware of their circumstances or where they are, and just ask them, are you okay? Can I help you in some way? And if they don't say anything, don't worry. Just have a look around you and say, is there a sudden strong smell? Like, has someone just opened the doors along the corridor and the wafty smells from the canteen? Or has someone just walked by with strong aftershave or perfume on? These can be triggers that could cause someone to go, no, don't, that's not comfortable. And smells can be people can be very susceptible to strong smells, strong odors. So just be there, be supportive of them and say, okay, I'm just going to sit with you for a little while. Can we go somewhere else? Can I take you somewhere else? And see if you can help them in that way. And don't expect too much conversation from them, because if they've gone really deep into a shutdown, they could literally be like that with their head down and no visible signs of knowing anything about anyone around them at all. But just be there and be supportive if you can. And as I say, if there is noise going on or there's bright lights, suddenly the sun's come from behind the clouds and it's come really bright light coming in the office, then put the blinds down, or see if you can turn the person away from the blind by turning their chair 90 degrees or 180 degrees, so that they don't have the bright lights in their face. Just be there and be supportive with them and seeing if you can help them. If they are able to communicate with you, they will. But don't worry if they're not. Just being supportive is a good thing to do. So that's what a shutdown is. It can be quite disconcerting for other people when suddenly one of your colleagues has just stopped doing things and is drifting off, and it might look as though they're going to sleep. Don't worry too much. Just try and be supportive. If there are the noisy environmental or the bright environmental things, try and take them away from it, or turn them down, turn them off, and just wait with them. They might take 5 minutes, might take 10 minutes. And, after a few minutes, you can say, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Can I get you a glass of water? Something like that. And they might start to come around and start to communicate with you. If it looks like it's going to take longer, then you might want to notify someone in authority and seeing if there's a first aider on hand that you could call, who hopefully has been briefed on what to do in the event of someone having a shutdown or an episode like that. And then they can be called and they can come and they can help and try and help that person out of the situation that they're in. So I'm going to ask those of you who are on the call today whether anyone has had any experience of having shutdowns, and what was it like? They were very bizarre things for me. I literally just turned off, just like a computer that had got overwhelmed with too much going on, or the fan suddenly trying to cope and couldn't cope, and the computer overheated and just turned off. That's effectively what I did. I just couldn't cope, got overwhelmed and turned off. So I'm going to ask anyone, either Gaita or Paddy or Damien, whether you've had experiences of shutdowns or anything like that. Damien, is it something you've come across?
Yes. I remember when I was small at school, it would always be either a Monday or the first day of term. And I had a very pleasant teacher who had used to come into school in a fur coat, and sometimes she would put the fur coat out on the desk for me and say, "You have a sleep now." and you rest. If things got and normally it would precede a period of high activity. For example, first day of school, a lot of activity running around, a lot of things going on, and again, that's being overwhelmed maybe. And she would always say, "Oh, say he needs a rest." I remember my mum asking her, "Why does she let me um, um, rest on her coat in the afternoon?" And the teacher said to my mum that it's better for everyone if
Yes,
she does
yes,
that.
absolutely.
To me,
It's better for you because you're in a safe environment. You're able to rest, which is exactly what you need. It's good for the rest of the class because you're not being disruptive, and the teacher can carry on teaching. She can keep an eye on you,
yes,
and it works for both. It works for both. So, yeah, it's
but
yeah,
but,
yeah. Go on.
but these days it's more a question of I say being, as you said, being overwhelmed with well, it could be any subject, lots of activity, or a lot of people talking about lots of different things that they seem to be in a very messy manner. And it's almost a feeling of muscle tightness and
Mm.
inability to talk or to do anything. So I will, in my work, I can sit in the car, or I can maybe go for a long lunch and just I will sit and basically stationary for a while, and then gradually it takes a bit of time.
Yeah.
But what I will also say is that if someone, probably for me, the worst thing that someone can do is ask me whether they can help or whether they can do anything.
Yes.
Um, unless there's any miracle, I haven't found anyone who's, apart from time and my own getting away from a certain situation, maybe sometimes concentrating on something else. If I can find something else, one thing I can concentrate on, like either walking around, or sometimes at home I'll pick up the violin and start practicing the violin, and all my concentration goes onto that one thing, which sort of gets me out. Otherwise, I could find myself sat for hours not doing anything. So
Yeah. Yeah.
whether that's a trick or whether that's something that can help, but for me it seems to. Anyway, if I've got the right impression of shutdown,
No,
which
I think you've got it perfectly right there, Damien. Yeah.
um,
One of the things with children, if you notice children having exactly what you just said, they could have been really hyperactive and doing a lot of running around, then suddenly they'll go into a shutdown. One of the things is to try and distract them. And if someone is on the spectrum, it might be that allowing them to stim, and we haven't talked about stimming yet, that stimming could be it could be rocking. People on the spectrum with Asperger's or autism, one of their stims could be rocking. It's a rocking. It's a way of trying to calm themselves down. One of my stims that I didn't really know was a stim at the time, but I used to bite my nails really badly. I mean, I would bite them until they would bleed, and at any one time there'd be 2 or 3 fingers on each hand that would be bleeding. Even well into my 30s and 40s, I get so stressed by situations, I would rip my nails out of the bed, and fingers would be bleeding. And uh, it was only much later in life when I got, I think it was just before I got my diagnosis, that I got myself into a calmer state, a long-term calmer state, and was gradually able to stop biting my nails, apart from my little fingers. It took me another 2 years to stop biting my little fingers, but eventually I now have presentable fingernails. But
okay.
so the other one is, go on.
Sorry, I still do.
Yeah, I do
Bite my nails.
sometimes run my fingers through my teeth, but I don't bite them. But if it's a child, um, if they've got a favorite toy, let them have their favorite toy, and they will probably cuddle it really quite hard and quite tight, and maybe do some rocking, or gentle walking around and pacing the room. But just as you said, Damien, the violin trick that you had, that was a way of distracting you from all of the things that were going on. And because you
Mm.
had to focus and concentrate on that one thing, eventually you got yourself out of that state and into a better state. So yeah, if it's a child, their favorite toy, allow them to rock, allow them to stim, and they will come around eventually. And you're right, sometimes you could ask them things like, can I help, can I get you a cup of tea, and they'll completely ignore you, and that's okay. You know, they've probably done this more times than you realize, and they have their own strange, unique way of coping with a shutdown, and eventually will come out of it. And you just have to give them time. Time is really important. They might recognize the signs themselves and just think, do you know what, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to walk around the block. Just let someone know I'm going for a walk, you know, or whatever. Or even if, as we talked earlier in one of the earlier sessions, just go to their safe space in the office, a place where it's quiet, it's calm, and they can be on their own, they can be quiet, they can make themselves a cup of tea, but they may have gotten beyond that point of being able to recognize they need to do that and just either want to go out or just find somewhere quietly where they can sit and try and gather themselves. So they are quite strange things. I when I had them, it usually tended to happen in one particular class. I think it was a Tuesday morning, second lesson, because Tuesday morning first lesson was just too intense. The teacher was too aggressive. The kids I just couldn't cope with. And so for some reason in the next lesson, I would have my shutdown. And then it would be, oh, Andrew's fainted again. Oh, well, take him to the nurse. He'll be all right. And half an hour later, I'd come back into class and everything would be fine. But it is a strange sensation as someone having one, because you tend to lose everything. You tend to lose the ability to think, to focus, to concentrate. And it really is just like it's almost like a car that's run out of petrol. It will just stop and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's quite a strange thing. I'm just wondering whether Karen, you've had any experience of this or in your work? No, that's okay. So that is really today's topic. If anyone wanted to make any other comments or anything, but I want to just share with you a little thing that I work as a coach and as a speaker, and I'm available for people who want to know more about dealing with and managing people with Asperger's at work to become better leaders of neurodiverse people. And I have a series of programs that are available for employers. So if anyone's interested in knowing about the services that I can provide, I can put a document in the chat that if someone would like to have a look at, they're more than welcome to. Just copy that in there now. It's not working. No, that is not working. Anyway, I'll try and fix that later on. No, okay. Thanks, Paddy, for your comment there. Yeah, fingernails, biting fingernails was a really I was just so stressed out as a child and a young man that work situations got so stressful that I just couldn't cope, and I would literally even propelling pencils. Without getting too gross, I would take the end off, the end where the rubber is, the sort of metal end. I would take the end off the propelling pencil and use that to cut my nails with. And for some reason, I don't know whether it was the sensation of pain was a way of trying to alleviate the stress of the situation I was in, or not, or it was just I would just bite my nails, and it was very difficult to deal with and cope with. So has anyone got any questions they want to ask me about shutdowns or any other aspect of working with people with Asperger's or autism? He bites his knee. Interesting, Gator. Yeah. Is he on the spectrum, your son? Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, how do you manage that the fingernail biting?
Hello. Yeah, 1 second only. Yeah, I'm gonna just because I'm going to pick him up. 1 moment, okay? I just wanted to ask one question. Yeah, my son has been diagnosed with spectrum disorder. With his 4 years, and he bites everything. And I'm concerned about maybe the lights in my house, they bother him. Or maybe I got my house, everything is white. Maybe the color white, it could be bothering him. I think it's proprioception, sensory. He needs proprioception, I don't know how they call it, input. somehow like he need to burn a lot of energy, jump. I'm trying to put pillows, but because of the communication issues, I don't know how to help him. And still the school or people are not helping me because I still it's 4 years only. He's only 4.
Okay.
So his body is itchy. He's told it and telling me, it's itchy, mommy. And I don't know which things I can buy to make his life easier. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's interesting having dealing with a young child. I think it's trying to have structure to the day, so that having something like, if you've got space in the garden for him to run around or kick a ball, or maybe even get a small trampoline, one with a handle, not one of these big round ones that you see in people's gardens, but maybe, but you can get small ones that are a couple of feet square.
I got, but the thing I had to hide it because it's very hard. So my other little one as well, it go to the trampoline, and I read they can hurt each other. My son is very big; he's 25 kilo. So the small ones, they don't suit to him. I had to buy one trampoline. It's allowed 110 kilo. So like this, he's able to jump. But I had to hide it because these ones they can harm them badly. I just don't know the sensory issues. I need to be very gentle with him. This was just the only question I wanted to know. Like I need to be very understanding with him. Yeah, it's not his fault.
Yeah.
He gonna have sometimes meltdowns. How did you say that it helped you? Somebody talked to you, yeah, and try to not change you the room or change you the room. I didn't. What is better?
Sorry, Paddy.
Hello. So
Yeah,
like it's
that's
better.
something very similar. I had it very similar when I was growing up. My uncle had most of his rooms were white floors, white walls, white woodwork. Everything was white, and it used to give me sensory overdrive, headaches.
Yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he actually bought me a pair of sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read
with
about
a slight bronze tint, and that worked.
Yeah, one of colors in rooms and fabrics and things like that can be sensory issues for people on the spectrum. One of the things that people have found that works, and you have to find the right one for you, and is soft pastel colors rather than white and really bright colors, but soft, gentle pastel colors, sort of powdery colors. They tend to work quite well because they take the intensity out of the color. Pastel, very, very gentle colors.
Just tell him that I'm coming.
Yeah, I will try to change that thing. It's just I don't want to put too much job because I need to care about him as well. He's diagnosed with Asperger, and just now on February, and I now try to get knowledge about the topic because I don't know much. That's why I'm trying to do all the web seminar. Like I feel somehow to change everything without know what the issue is gonna be too costly, and it's gonna be also too much job about information I need to require. I'm waiting next year. Maybe he's gonna have occupational therapy, but if he's feeling bad physically, yeah, because of his cells, they are affecting him. I feel it's too long to wait 1 year for it. Like if I need maybe the glasses, it could be a good idea. I read about it. Like there are some of them, they are blue. They call it blue glasses, something like that.
Yes.
This could be good. Okay. I will try, and I will go changing colors of the rooms slowly.
Yeah.
If I have to. Yeah.
The thing to do is to maybe go to this might sound really bizarre, and I'm thinking off the top of my head, but maybe go to a DIY decorating shop with him and look at different color wallpaper or different color paints and see which ones he's more drawn to, that he thinks is more soothing and gentle for him. But sunglasses is a good idea. Noise cancelling headphones, or you can get very small earbuds which can be very good for noise cancelling. They can help people on the spectrum a lot with noise. And if I mean, even if I mean, I know people at work who have headsets like this, would work with headsets like this because they had sensory issues, and providing, you know,
how was your holiday?
Your boss should be supportive of that. They should allow for that to be able to help you think, you know, I can work better if I put the headphones on, and those sorts of things. So yeah, good. Thanks, Karen. Daughter was diagnosed with 14 years. Yeah. It is very much what works for that particular person and works for your family. And there's a number of books out. There's a number of books out there, but it's a challenge. But one of the things that I would suggest is to look at your own environment, look at the colors, the sounds and the smells that are going on, and see if there's any way you can tone those down a little bit with noise cancelling earphones or sunglasses. And try thank you, you're welcome. Try and have structure to the day. They will probably respond to structure very well. So after school, then I don't know whether you have their tea straight after school, or whether you allow them to do an hour of crafting or reading or something like that. But try and get into a structure with them, and have small rewards, so that if they've done something good and they've done something well and they behave, give them a small reward. And that reward doesn't necessarily need to be crisps or sweets, but it might be you'll get an extra half an hour on your computer time, or we'll go and do some art today, so do some painting or some drawing, or we'll go to the park at the weekend. So try and reward good behavior with something that they like to do. But don't let it's very difficult. I know I was not an easy child at all to deal with, and I was the youngest of 3 boys, so I have some sympathy for my parents in me growing up. I didn't know I had Asperger's till I was 51. So all of this is looking back, my parents were not as bad as I make them out to be, you know. So, but
no, we try.
Yes,
we try. All
yeah.
parents, we try our best. The thing is,
Yeah.
like, when we don't know the things, this is the problem. Like, we need maybe professional help. That's so here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find information as much as I can. I wanted to say something. Like, my son hurt people, and my little one as well. He hurt him, but I think it's not his fault. I think it is as well, because maybe his body is itching, or maybe because he's biting everything around the house. So I know it's sensorial, but sometimes he push or he hurt my other little one maybe. But my son is very good. I know that. I know my little one is provoking him. Just wanted to say, like, it's not his fault, isn't it? Or what I should do.
No, I understand that, and we need, there's a fine line that needs to be drawn between understanding that he has these issues and letting him away with things that he shouldn't be doing, like pushing or biting. It's very easy for me to sit here and say, you know, you've got to try and train them out of that, and it's not an easy thing to do. But if they are doing things that hurt their siblings, then they need to be told, and you need to find them a quiet. Find them when they're find them when they're in a quiet moment. So it's quite all right. Find them when they're in a quiet moment and say, you know, when you pushed your brother or your sister, that wasn't a nice thing to do, because it could have hurt them, because you wouldn't want me to push you to make you hurt. So try and turn it back to them to say, if that happened to you, how would you feel? So that you can then try and enforce that behavior. But I think you need to speak to your GP first of all, and say,
they are.
And see if they can offer some help or some courses. But there's useful information that you can get on the National Autistic Society website.
Sorry, one thing I want to say, I need to leave because my son is finishing at 3:30 and I need to pick him up now.
Okay.
It was so helpful. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
I'm sorry, I need to leave. Thank you for all the help. I'm sorry.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye.
Yes, I agree, Karen. I'm just reading a comment here that if he's biting everything, there's a chewy type of jewelry that it's almost like a teething ring that you give your toddler when they're 2 and they're teething, and they've got a temperature of 102 and they've been teething for 2 days. That is stressful. That is really stressful for the parent, and it's not good, and it's not candid for the child. But so if there are aids that can be used that can help people with biting, and again, if they're biting, you need to tell them that they can't bite people and bite things, and you know, you need to just keep reinforcing it. Do it very gently, but say, you know, if I bit you, you wouldn't like it. You know, so you need to try and put the situation back to them and say, if you did this, how would you feel? You wouldn't like it if someone bit you, so try not to do it to others. But speaking to you need to speak to your GP about these sorts of issues, because there may be some medication that they can be put on that can help calm them down so that they don't get into those situations, or there can be other therapies that can help them. So it is a challenge having children who are on the spectrum, autistic, or have Asperger's, but equally there are great rewards as well. I'm sure, Karen, your daughter comes out with amazing things that she does, whether it's in art or music or dance, or there's bound to be something that she's really passionate about and she's really good about, and you should be encouraging that as much as you can, and I'm sure you do. So interesting times. If you want to know more about raising children with Asperger's, there's a lady in Australia called Sue Larkey, Larkey. She's a teacher. She teaches children with special needs and on the spectrum. And if you looked her up, I think she's either Australian or New Zealand. But if you looked up Sue Larkey, did a Google for Sue Larkey, you can get a newsletter from her, and she does regular podcasts and videos on things that can help you with children on the spectrum, and some of her work is very good. She's written quite a number of books on teaching children who are on the spectrum. So if you have those children on the spectrum and you want some more help, then Sue Larkey is a good resource to look into and to have, and you can see how you get along with that. But she has regular podcasts, and I'm on her newsletter, and I read her newsletters quite often. They're very good. They're very down to earth, very practical. She's not an academic, although she has qualifications, of course, but she doesn't look at it from an academic point of view. She looks at it from practical, handy hints that teachers and students teachers and parents can work together to help the children on the spectrum have a better life, and have a fulfilling life as well. But equally, getting into having sensible discipline as well, which needs to be important. Wow, we got off topic there, but it's always good to be able to talk to others about various things that's going on. So I was just wondering if anyone has any other questions they want to ask me before we close for the day. Well, I think shutdowns are an interesting thing. They really do look like someone has turned off. It's as if the batteries run out and they've turned off, and they've sunk down on themselves. They maybe go pale, go very quiet. Allow them to be there. If, as Damien said, talking to them doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't, it didn't always work with me, just try and take the environment away from them. Turn the noise, turn the volume down, or if you can turn some of the lights off, or close the doors where the smells are coming in, or things like that. It's all little things that can help, that can make a difference. So, and I've got another little. Just asked a question here from Karen. What's the difference between shutdown and dissociating? I think dissociating is a choice where you're dissociating yourself from what is happening. A shutdown is not a choice thing. You don't have a choice with a shutdown unless you can recognize the signs, or your family or your work colleagues can recognize the signs and try and help you out of them, try and help you not go into a shutdown. But I think dissociation is more of a voluntary thing, that you're trying to distract yourself from what is going on by being more focused on yourself. I think that would be how I would put that. So I think we've just about run out of time for today's session. It was good to have you on board, and to be able to do some help, hopefully some helping of Gata and Paddy, and hopefully they can resolve the issues that they have with their children. And I hope that they do speak to their doctors and therapists and see if they can help them out in any ways. But it's good to have you on board today, Karen. Nice to have been able to talk with you, and good to see you, Damien. And I will be posting next week's session on Friday afternoons. And I will have a think. If anyone has any topics they want me to discuss, in the next session, then please do either drop me a line here in the chat just before we close, or drop me a direct message on LinkedIn. But other than that, thank you very much for joining me. And I say, if you are interested in any of the services that I provide for businesses, then please also get in touch, and I can send you the one-page information sheet on those services that I offer. But thanks for coming on today. It's good to see you, and see you again next week on another Talking Aspergers with Andrew. Thank you. Bye bye. I'll turn the recording off. No.